Okay, we're continuing in the laws of Eruv Techumin, the Eruv that the laws of the boundaries of Shabbos, if one should not leave the boundaries of Shabbos, and with that was the ways one can set up an Eruv to extend that space. So go back to the text. Hold on a second. It's chapter 95 in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Hold on, here we go. So I just want to go back a bit. We learned the laws again. The laws of Tchum are complicated. My friend Josh was in Europe a few weeks ago, and he told me, for instance, that he was in a hotel in the mountains in Italy, and a kosher Jewish hotel. And before the Shabbos, or I'm not sure if it was before. Seemingly, this would have to have been done before the Shabbos, not on Shabbos itself because but there's Brera. I think it could even be the announcement was done on Shabbos itself. But either way, the manager, the Jewish manager of the hotel or the owner of the hotel, said that he spoke over with the rabbis and he said that he made an Eruv on two sides. Means there's two ways, there's two directions to walk if you want. Again, the Eruv space is between 950 to 1100 or just under 1100 meters. So it's about plus minus a kilometer. The kilometer plus minus not even a mile space. So if you want to take a long walk on Shabbos, I mean, it's a mile is nice, but it's not a long, it's not, it's not a 3 mile walk. If you want to get your 3 mile, your 10,000 steps. So the manager of the hotel said he made two Eruvs. He made an Eruv to, let's say, the east and to the west or the north or the south. I forget what he said. He made, because there's two trails from the hotel. Hey, Rebecca, we're talking about the laws of Eruv Tchumen. I'm telling over what I heard Shabbos from my chavrusa, Josh, who was in Italy 2 weeks ago. So he was in a kosher Jewish hotel, and so the manager, the owner, made an announcement Friday night that there's different trails to walk if you want to take a walk on Shabbos, but those trails, of course, will go past the plus minus 1 kilometer of the Tchum. So therefore, and again, it's the middle of the mountains. So he made he made an Eruv to, let's say, the one trails in the west and one trails in the east. And the thing is that what we learned, you can't go anything you take to one side, you lose to the other side. If you make an Erev Techumin to the west, so you lose it to the east. Anything you add to the west, you lose to the east. So you have 2,000 amas, right? That's what we have. The 11, let's say the kilometer, the 2,000 amas is, let's say it's plus minus a kilometer. You have a kilometer. So if you live in a city, you have a kilometer plus the Karfif plus the outer boundaries. You have any direction you want to walk from your city. Let's say you don't live in a city, you live at home. So you have the 2,000 amas in any direction from your home. Now let's say you need to go 4,000 amas or 3,500 amas. So you make the Erev Tchumim in the direction you need to go. But if you need to go 3,500 amas to the east, then you lost 1,500 amas to the west. Because what are you basically doing? What is an Erev Tchumim doing? An Erev Tchumim is relocating where your center is, where your shvisa is, where you're resting on Shabbos. And therefore, so if you're moving the tchum, if you're moving the Erev, if you're putting the Erev 1,500 amas to the east, it's as if that's where your Shabbos Shabbos, that's where you rest Shabbos, and then you have the 2,000 amas in every direction from where your Erev is, which means basically from where your house is, you lost 1,500 amas, so you only have 500 amas to continue in the west if you choose to go west. Now here, the owner of the hotel says he made an Erev in both directions. So what is he doing? He's actually saying, in theory, you could walk either 4,000 amas, 2 kilometers on this trail, or 2 kilometers on that trail. You can't do both. So what he basically was accomplishing was if you don't know which direction you're going to go, you could make what's called you could make a option that if I need to go in this direction, so this is where my Erev is. If now the question is if you could do it on Shabbos itself, it means you make the Erev in two directions. Can you make that choice on Shabbos? That's the idea, question of Brera. We know there's a law of Brera. Brera means that when you choose something, it reveals as if you chose it before. It's a revelation. It means the choice is not that you're choosing now, because you can't choose on Shabbos, right? We said, when does the Shvisa kick in? When does the Tchum kick in? The Tchum kicks in Ben Hashmashas. Ben Hashmashas is when Shabbos kicks in, when it goes over from Friday night to Shabbos. So how could you choose Shabbos morning where to go? So theoretically, a person should choose before Shabbos. But theoretically, there is the concept of discussion of Breira, that when you choose, it means right now, on Shabbos itself, you can't walk anywhere. You can't start walking one direction, then choose another direction. But let's say you're at home, you're not going anywhere. And then comes Shabbos morning, and you decided you wanted to go on this trail, not that trail, from the hotel. So then you could say, okay, so I'm going into the hotel, and I chose to go to the West Trail, which is a Bereira, which means that's revealing that that's where I kept Shabbos ben Hashmashas. Now, there's another part that we discussed last week that seemingly the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch doesn't paskin according to the Ramah. So I'm going to learn what did we say again? The concept of Eiruv Techumin is that the Eiruv Techumin creates the Shvisa. This is where I'm resting Shabbos. But there's another law that the Ramah brings down in Shulchan Aruch, which is called Lina. Lina means, where did you sleep last night? Even though your Shvisa is from word Shabbos, where did you rest? Where did you take Shabbos in? Where your Eiruv Techumin is, where your Eiruv is, where your food is, 1,500 meters, 1,500 amas from your house, let's say. But where did you sleep? You slept in your bed. And the Ramah says that Lina gives something, means it gives credence. If you're going, everyone agrees that if you're going, if you have an Eiruv Techumin and you're going east, and when you go east, you enter into a city within this allocated space. You can't just keep on walking the whole city. Everyone agrees to that. That it stops after your 2,000 amas stop. So if let's say you have city A, city B, and between city A and city B is 3,900 amas. Okay, so it's not 4,000, 39. You put the Erev smack in middle, which is 1,900 amas to the east. So you're going east, continuing east. You go into the city. You can't just walk into the whole city. Let's say Seattle. Let's say you go from Seattle, Lake City way. I don't know in theory, right? You can't just walk the whole city. You can only walk still 2,000 amas from your Erev. It means you could be in the city. You can only walk. I have to stop walking down the middle of the street. And there's tons of people walking around me. Why? Because you didn't do Lina. You didn't sleep that night in the city. Difference is, according to the Ramah, if you slept in the city. And that's what we discussed last week. We discussed last week and we said, because there's seemingly two opinions. One opinion is, it seems that what the Ramah says, and it seems according to most opinions, this is the way the Magen Avraham understands it, which is one of the commentaries, that where you sleep becomes 4 amas. And that would imply if your house, let's say the hotel, right? This hotel that these people were staying in Italy. The hotel is not just a 4x4 space. The hotel is many rooms and many, let's say that the hotel is 50 amas by 50 amas, let's just say theoretically. So that's also space. 50 amas is 50 amas. So you don't have to minus that space. Why? Because they're sleeping there. So that whole hotel becomes like 4 amas, even though it's much larger than 4 amas. But we consider the place you're sleeping as 4 amas only. That's the halacha. The question is, how long does that stay? Which would mean, if I'm staying in Seattle, or let's say Jerusalem, to go to Hadassah Hospital, from my home here, from where I'm sitting right now, to go to Hadassah Hospital is in the Tchum. I'm allowed to walk there on Shabbos for whatever reason. I'm not sure because it seems that there's a lot of space between Hadassah itself and the next place because there's that whole hill. But whatever, if you look on the map, Hadassah Hospital, like I posted, is within the Tchum. For me to walk here, the Hadassah Hospital is at least 6-7 kilometers, maybe 6-7 kilometers. It's way more than 2,000 amas for me just to walk from here to Hadassah Hospital. It takes about an hour and a half, close to 2 hours. Now, but that's all within the Tchum. I could walk all that space on Shabbos. I get to Hadassah Hospital, continuing towards Beit Shemesh, is no more people don't live there. It's just a road. There's the next day. There's a city after that called Even Sapir. That's another city outside, further from Hadassah Hospital. If Even Sapir, in theory, is within 2,000 amas of Hadassah, I can walk to Even Sapir. Why? Because I have 2,000 amas from the end of Hadassah, because that's where the city limit ends, the Tchum ends. But for me to go from here to Hadassah takes 5,000 amas. Is it 10,000 amas? How can I walk from here to Hadassah and then walk another 2,000 amas? Why? Because it's one 4 amas. The whole city is considered 4 amas. It's my lina, it's my place of resting. I only start counting 2,000 amas after the Tchum. But what happens if I put an Erev Techumim towards Even Sapir? So how do I walk from my house? because from the Tchum, my Shvisa to my house is so many more amas. How can I walk that far? So the halacha is because where you slept is considered only 4 amas. The Ramah holds that applies to go back as well. We said last week that you can't go back. I wouldn't be able to go back home. If I went to, let's say I had to go to Bris and even Sapir, and hypothetically, even Sapir was, if I put an Erev, I would be able to walk there. I don't know if I can, but let's say hypothetically I could. So then I could go back to Hadassah, but I can't come back home because it's too far from my Erev. And that's what he says in law number 13. V'chein hadin, this is the law. I'm going to read it again. If I were to put my Erev, let's say 1900 amas from the city, and I'm sleeping right here where my office is, let's say. My house isn't far from here. And Hadassah Hospital is at least 5 kilometers from where I'm sitting. Now I went to wherever I had to go. I don't want to come back home. I can't come back home, he says. You can't go back to your house. Seemingly from the Kitzur, I could leave my house. But it's only a one-way pass. I could leave my house, I can't come back. The Ramah, seemingly, the way those understand the Ramah, which is the Ashkenazi authority on the Shulchan Aruch, it seems like in Tavches, in 408, holds that you can go back. Why? Because you slept there that night. And sleeping there makes it as if the whole city gets like, a Yaakov, right? The whole Eretz Yisrael went under Yaakov's head. The whole city of Yerushalayim, which could be, 5 square kilometers or 10 square kilometers, is all really 4 amas. But what we're studying here doesn't agree with that. He says, you can't go back home. You can't go back home. But clearly you could leave your home. Even though you're leaving your home, you're walking a long distance, because the clock only starts ticking when you leave the city. But once you leave the city, you can't come back to your house if it's further than 2,000 ams from your Erev. Again, the Ramah seemingly, according to the Magen Avram, does not agree with that. He's Mekel. Again, it seems like this is the opinion of most authorities and is accepted halacha. So says the Ali Rabba, but I've heard that people are Mekel according to the Ramah that you could go out. It seems like that's what the Magen Avram stands in the Ramah. Here he says it's the opinion of most authorities and it's accepted halacha. I didn't see this footnote, but Kenu Das Rebbe Paiskim, I don't know, most people are Mekel and say you can go back home according to the Ramah. That's the way the Ramah understands that the Lina, the place that you slept, is always going to be considered your 4 amas. Ask your local rabbi if that comes a question. Again, again, Eiruvei Techumin doesn't seem like it's something that you come across unless you're in a hotel in Italy and you have to know where to walk. Again, he doesn't put too many footnotes, I think, because again, these are complicated laws. I asked the Sfardish Rosh HaKollel in the show that I daven, who's very knowledgeable, big Talmud Chacham. He also wasn't so clear of what to do. Okay, let's go further. Law number 14. Ein ma'arvin Eiruvei Techumin. Again, so the bottom line is, I just want to say, just for those now is in the summer, and those are going on holiday for Shabbos, and they go out to the woods, to put an Eruv to walk close to 2 kilometers is allowed. In the event that you're putting it past, let's say the area, let's say you have a whole compound, let's say you have a campgrounds, let's say Gan Yisrael, right? It's campgrounds. So it seems like, according to the Ramah, though he says most authorities don't agree with this, but it seems like from what I heard on those who understand the Ramah, you can go back once you get into the city, even if you just have 1 foot. Once you go into the city, you can go back to your place of rest. Okay. 14. Ein ma'arvim Eiruvei Techumin el dvar mitzvah. Okay, when should you make an Erev? Seemingly, these people in Italy weren't going to do any mitzvahs, right? They were just going to have a walk on Shabbos. So he says you should only do it for a mitzvah. But what's the question? What's a mitzvah? Kegoin, he gives an example. What's a mitzvah? Lihispal basara. If you don't live near a minyan. Hold on. Yes, Jonathan.
Yes, right. About them, is it simply forbidden, right? Not like to walk for 2 hours on Shabbos, or to walk like 10 miles or something, like you're just walking too much. Okay, whether there's we're learning about all the laws about Erev and Eiruvei Techumin, all right? But is it just forbidden, right, them to walk for a very, very, very long time?
No, we're gonna see soon that it's even considered a mitzvah to take a walk if it's for joy. And to do exercise is not allowed on Shabbos.
5 hours, 2 hours.
Let's see what he says. I mean, let's look at the footnotes here. But he's going to define it here. Even an Erev you only do for a mitzvah. Kigoyin, what's a mitzvah? Lispal basar to daven with a minyan. Oy lahak bil pnei rabbi, to meet your rebbe who's coming to meet you. Oy chaveroi, or a friend sheba min haderech that's coming that you haven't seen in a while. You want to meet up. Oy l'sudas mitzvah for a bris. A sudas mitzvah means a suda of a mitzvah. Oy lefakeach al iski rabbim, or if you have a communal job. Oy shu ba min haderech v'roitzi leilchel basic adayim, or you're coming somewhere and you want to go home. So, but in the footnotes, it's going to say, so seemingly from here, Jonathan's question, that just to take a stroll or to take a hike on Shabbos should not be part of which should not be permissible. Again, if I was not mistaken, when we would go in the earlier days, we would go very often to a yeshuv in Eretz Yisrael. It's the most eastern yeshuv. It's called Eiruvei Bashan. It's on the Bashan. We're learning about the Og Melech Bashan. That's in the Golan Heights. And if you walk out of the city or the village, it's not a city, it's a mashav, towards east, towards Syria, so you can go all the way up on top of the hill. On top of the hill, there's a lookout that you could see the whole Syria. You can see it's a big lookout, big army lookout. So they actually even once had an infiltration from Syria when we were there, not when we were there physically, but those years that we were coming. Now I see they were religious moshav and they took us there, but it seemed to me that it was pretty, unless it just seemed hard, but it seemed like it was further than the 2,000 amas. But let's see. So he says over here, in the actual law 14 says you should only go for either a mitzvah, which means a minyan, meeting your teacher, a close friend that you haven't seen in a while, a sudas mitzvah, a bris. If you're a communal person, but doesn't say what Jonathan asked about just taking a stroll. But let's see the footnotes. The footnotes does discuss it. If the Eruv was not made for a mitzvah purpose, some say that it's not valid. So says the Bahag and the Rashba. It means the Rishonim say, Bal Hilchos Hagdolos, and the Rashba say, the Rav Shlomo ben Aderet says that not only should you only do it for a mitzvah, but if you did it and there was no mitzvah connected to it, it's not an error. And others say it's valid. So says the Rambam, Tosfos, Rosh, which would probably be the halacha because those are the main authorities when it comes to questions. We have the Rosh and Rambam, which 2 out of the 3, the Rif. Eliyahu Rabbah says that you can be makil if there is an urgent need. Not a mitzvah, but an urgent need. The Mishnah Brura 4151 says, is makil even when there's no urgent need, as are the Chaye Adam and the Shalom Meshiv. Okay. So it says, even if it's not urgent, they're makil, you could do it. They're lenient. 34 says, making an Erev to meet a friend is permitted only if he is arriving from a journey. But meeting your Rebbe is always a mitzvah. So says the Shar Tzion. The 35, he says, it is permitted even in order to stroll through the park to enjoy Yom Tov or Shabbos. So this is the question of Jonathan. The Ramah quotes that you can make an Erev Techumin even for a walk. So I'm not sure what, based on number 35, that kind of invalidates 34 and 33, because what would be not a walk if it wasn't? 33 says, if it's not a mitzvah, it's not even an Erev, and we're makel. And then 34 says, you can only see a friend you didn't see in a long time. But if you want to just take a walk, that's allowed. So that's pretty much, I mean, why else would you be walking? But it seems what the Ramah is saying, I have to see the text inside. It seems what the Ramah is saying is that the walk itself is like Einik Shabbos. It's enjoyable to take a walk on Shabbos. But I guess what would not be a walk? I don't know. Maybe running away from something. Okay, playing hide and seek. All right, next law, 15. Ein manichin erev tchumim. We don't make an erev tchumim. Loy b'Shabbos v'loy b'Yom Tov. Ein manichin erev tchumim loy b'Shabbos v'loy Yom Tov. You can't place a erev tchumim on the Shabbos and Yom Tov itself. So therefore, he says, "L'chein im chol Yom Tov be'erev Shabbos." If Yom Tov falls out on Friday, and on Shabbos you need to go someplace. It's tarach lanichas erev be'erev Yom Tov. You have to put it on Thursday or Thursday afternoon before Shabbos, before Yom Tov. You can't place it on Yom Tov, so it has to be placed 48 hours before, within the 48 hours of before Yom Tov. V'chein be'Yom Tov la'achar Shabbos. So too if it's Shabbos Sunday, like this year's Shavuos. This year's Shavuos I think was Friday Shabbos, but sometimes it's Shabbos Sunday. So Shabbos Sunday also you have to have the Eruv done on Friday. You can't put it on Shabbos for Yom Tov. But right to Lechs Yom Tov, you need to go somewhere on Sunday, which is Yom Tov. So Chanichas Erev Shabbos, you have to put on Erev Shabbos. Now he says in the parentheses, Din ha'ma'arev b'raglav b'shulchan aruch simin taf tes siv zayin, v'din yom tov ha'samach l'Shabbos ha'shnei yom tovim shagadis, v'reit l'arav l'yom rishon l'tzad zeh l'yom shein l'tzad zeh b'simin taf tes zayin. He says about the question of if you're making an Erev not with food, but actually going someplace. Discussed in the laws of Erevin in Taf Tes. He's not going to discuss it. And the ideas of if you need options, that if you have 2 days Yom Tov, and one day you don't want to go one place, another day you want to go to another place, so those laws are discussed in 416 of the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so that's again, but here in the case of the story of Italy, of my friend Josh was different because there the guy made 2 Erevs in one Shabbos, but not for one person. He did it again. We said you could make an Erev on behalf of people. But it seems like, from what I understand the story, he only made the announcement after Shabbos came in, not that people had to make a decision before Shabbos, and that was based, I think, on the laws of Breira that you could choose and you reveal where your shvisa, where your resting was on Shabbos. Okay, 36. He says like this. I just want to let you know a station identification that after we finish 95 is 96 is the last chapter on the laws of Shabbos. So we're going to have to decide how we're going forward on this class. All right. 36. For you are not allowed to acquire things, including shvisa on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So you can't make your shvisa. He says the problem is kinyan. It's an issue of kinyan. You're not allowed to acquire things in Shabbos. So you're not allowed to even acquire a shvisa even though you're doing it on Yom Tov for Shabbos or Shabbos for Yom Tov. But you're not allowed to do that, even though it's 2 separate days. It means even though the holiday of the holiday that you're celebrating and the Shabbos are 2 different kedushas. But the problem is, in theory, what's wrong if I make an Erev on Shabbos for Yom Tov? I'm not making an Erev on Shabbos for Shabbos itself. That we agree that when Shabbos comes in, that's where you are. But this is another day. It's another holiday. It's another kedusha. But you can't. But by doing it, you're not allowed to make an acquisition. You're acquiring the space for your resting on Shabbos, and you can't make an acquisition on Shabbos. Okay, 37 is a reference. Okay. Now we have interesting laws. The laws of borrowing on Shabbos. Why? Because if you borrow something on Shabbos, and it comes into very complicated laws of the pale, right? And the people coming from Yom Tif and they were coming into a communal pale. So the question is this big shaila about the communal pails, right? So if you have a pail and you have a bar, you have a pit that's a well, and you want to be able to carry the pail to drink or to feed your animals. The question is, where's the pail's gvul? Because the law is that your kalim, the vessels, belong to the person who Shabbos goes into. If I go into Shabbos to someone and I want to borrow their, I don't know, let's say a pot. Let's make it very simple, a keli. And they're the person who owns the pot that's lending to you on Shabbos, you're borrowing on Shabbos, could only walk 5 feet east for whatever reason. That's where their limits are. And you're able to walk 100, 200 feet east. But the problem is you want to take the pot 200 feet east. So you can't. You can only go the pot has to be able to go as far as the person who's lending it. The problem is when it's a communal space, then the shaila is if a communal space gets pulled like a spider web in all directions, because everyone could be coming from any space, therefore you can't move the pail at all. Or there's a communal space that have no space at all. No one has ownership over that space. It means imagine you have a pail, people are coming in from all sides to walk to the bore, to the water source, right? To the well on Shabbos. But someone's coming from the east, someone from the north, someone from the south, everyone's coming. So and everyone could only walk up to the well. Which means that if I take the pail a little bit to the north, then the person from the south is pulling it the other direction. So the question is about communal things that belong to everyone, if it's being pulled like a spider web or if it doesn't belong to anyone. That's not going to be discussed here in Kitzur. All right, Kelev ubehimasav shaladam. This both the vessels. Okay, let's say behema is actually something that maybe is more common. But someone's gonna say, when am I ever going to borrow a pot from someone that is only able to go 5 feet east and I could go 100 feet east? But let's say you want to take someone's dog on a walk, and that person you want, and you're, let's say, let's give an example. Let's say you're in Italy for Shabbos, like this person was, and the person comes with a pet that brings their dog to the hotel, and you want to take the dog for a walk. According to the halacha that you're allowed to, according to the way that you're allowed to take the dog for a walk, you want to take the dog for a walk. So you, of course, whichever way of the Eruv that you choose, so you could take your animal that direction, your pet that direction. But let's say someone else wants to borrow your pet or wants to take your pet on a walk for you, and you chose to go east in Italy, and that means if the person chose the Eruv east, means that person can't walk even one step west. So am I allowed to take the other person's pet on a walk into the west? So it says, vessels and animals of a person, harihem karaglav, they're like the person who owns them at the time of Shabbos. And if you can't go to a certain place because of your limitations, that no person could take your things out of the space that you're allowed to go on Shabbos. What happens if you lend it to someone else? Or you rented it to someone else. Or he gave it to someone on your behalf to watch it for you. So if this is, he doesn't say it, but it's obvious. It's whoever is responsible for that item. When Shabbos comes in, that person gives the space. Let's say you borrow something. I borrow someone's, I don't know, pot. So it doesn't belong to me. Even if I rented it, it doesn't belong to me. But if when Ben Hashmashas comes in, when Friday night comes in, that pot is under my responsibility. So then it has my space, even though it belongs to someone else. But if I take it on Shabbos, then it stays with the space of the person where that person Shabbos came in for. Even if it's not a Jew, even if it's a Gentile, then you have it. If you come for Shabbos, you take it. It has your space. But it doesn't have your space. If you're taking from a Gentile and you're taking it on Shabbos, that's something else. Then the animal or the things that you've taken has your shvisa, has your place if you borrowed it even from the Gentile, as long as it's before Shabbos. He adds, Shall Eina Yehudi Koinim Shvisa Bim Koimam Shahai Ben Shmashes. He says even moreover, even the property of a non-Jew acquires Shvisa wherever they are on Erev Shabbos at twilight, which means that if you come to a Gentile on Shabbos, and so you can only take it where the Gentile was on Shabbos twilight 2,000 amas, and we're going to learn how that affects in the next law with certain things of taking. If a Gentile brings something to you on Shabbos, you have to find, that's another question of mail and other things. If something comes to you on Shabbos, besides the muksa component, are you allowed to carry it? Because if it came from out of the tchum, then it belongs to the tchum of the Gentile. All right, 38. It is possible that you may not even, what are we talking about over here? Thus, to a place where it is not allowed to walk, no one else is allowed to take them either. So he says it is possible that you may not even tell a non-Jew to take them out of the tchum. So says Pri Megadim. You can't. If it means if your pot has to be around you 2,000 amas, even you can't even ask a non-Jew, which doesn't have the laws of Shabbos, to take it out. Why? Because your kelim are yours, and you can't, even if you're going to lend it to this. So basically, you're not allowed to lend the Gentile something on Shabbos. Because if you lend to the Gentile Shabbos, your keli stays with you on Shabbos. So if you lend it to him before Shabbos, that's not a problem. If you lend it to him after Shabbos came in, so you have to be concerned that he's not allowed to take your things outside of the tchum. 39. Okay, they are subject to the laws of applying to one of those who custody they are, only if he lent or rented or delivered them before Shabbos. But if you borrow something after Shabbos comes in and it goes with the person that you took it from, even if the borrower did not come to take the article before Shabbos. So that's, he says in Shulchan Aruch 397 says that there's one little thing. If you call up someone and say, I'm going to pick up tomorrow X, Y, and Z from your house, tomorrow after Shabbos comes in, but you prearranged it before, so even though you didn't pick it up, it's still under your shvisa, not the person you're taking from. So let's say you're borrowing, A is borrowing from B, and B has whatever those kalim, those utensils could only go in, east, and you want to go west, and you could go west. Let's say you go in two opposite directions. If you make up, like again, in the place of the hotel, if you make up with someone and say, listen, tomorrow I'm going to borrow your X, Y, and Z, your coat, I don't know, and I'm going to take a walk to the east, even though you're taking a walk to the west, but you've made up beforehand. So then you've taken, so to say, ownership of the shvisa that you could go with you, which means that the other person can't take it the other direction. Everything has a catch. Okay, number 40. Hey, Danny, number 40 is like this. It says footnote. Okay. Now comes the law if a Gentile brings you something on Shabbos. There's two things. If a Gentile brings you a basket of apples on Shabbos, there's two problems. Number one is if the Gentile picked it today, then it's a problem because he's picking something for you on Shabbos, and that means Shabbos came in, the tree, the apple was muktzah, it was part of the tree. It was talish. It was connected. Now you're talish, you're disconnecting it. But let's say it's coming from the supermarket, no supermarket. If you're going to go to QFC, if you're going to go to the Super Safeway, the Albertsons, the chances are that the 99.99% that the fruit was picked at least a week or 2 weeks before, right? It takes a while for it to make it through this process. So we're not talking about a farmer's market where it could have come, it was picked that morning and it's in the afternoon ready in the market. But let's say you're sure for whatever reason the apples were not picked now. Let's say it's a fruit that doesn't grow in the area. So so there's no concern that the Gentile picked the fruit today. Or anything that, for instance, if a Gentile would bring you something that they could have made clearly today, that's another problem because you're benefiting from the malach of a Gentile on Shabbos. That's not allowed. But whatever it is, you're sure that whatever this article is has not been done on Shabbos. It hasn't been completed or made into being on Shabbos. Ella, but there's another problem. Where is it coming from? If let's say there's a farmer's market that for sure nothing came from was picked today, and the person comes and drove, that's a very likely scenario where someone drives from the farmer's market to your house, could be way out of the tchum if you're living in a kind of a less populated area, and he comes and brings you a basket. She brings you a basket of grapes. So you know for sure there's no grapes around here, so it wasn't picked here. It came from California, but they picked it up today from the market. But it traveled. If grapes traveled more than 2,000 amas from a populated area. If the Gentile did it for themselves or for another Gentile, it means they didn't have in mind, they weren't doing anything for the Jew. But just after, what, I'm going to bring my neighbor something also. But he didn't do it for the Jew themselves. You could eat it. It's not a problem. Even right away. You don't have to wait till Motzei Shabbos. Why? Because there's no laws of Shabbos for the Gentile, and they didn't bring it for you, so it didn't pass the tchum. The grapes didn't travel for you. But the problem is you're not. We'll see the footnote why you're not allowed to move it past 4 amas because it's coming from out of space, even though it wasn't brought for use. But you could eat it on Shabbos, and you could carry it within 4 amas, within your space. 4 amas is the space of a person. Unless he brought into the house, and the whole house becomes the space. Or a city that has an Eruv, again, a city that has an Eruv is like one big house. So then you could carry it around. But otherwise, it can't be carried even within a Rishus Yachid. It's like an issue of an Eruv Chatzeris. It came from another Chatzer. It came from another place. Then you can carry in the whole city. So let's just break down the scenario again. If a Gentile brings fruit from a market for himself or herself from another, or for another member of their family or someone that they know is not Jewish, but they decided on Shabbos to also share it with the Jew, but had the Jew not been there, they would have anyways brought it because they took it for themselves. So if they bring it to the Jew could eat it and move it within 4 amas if it's in a public space. If it's in their house, they can move it around the house. If it's in a city that has an Eruv, they can move it all around the Eruv because, again, it was a keli that was out of the Eruv Chatzeris, so to say. But because the law is where you're resting, your space is a whole space, is 4 amas, and therefore you can carry. But let's say the Gentile says, "Oh, I know my friend Chaim really loves this fruit. I don't like them, but my friend likes them. Oh, I'm going to pick it up for him." Certainly shows that you cannot touch the fruit or the vegetables or your members of your family. And not only that, you have to wait Saturday night. You can't just make Havdalah and eat it right away. You would have to wait. How long would it take for you or for someone to bring it to you after the Shabbos? Let's say it's a 25-minute drive. And I'm not sure about the laws if the market's open or not. Could be that we're lenient. Meaning to say, if a person says that it would take, it's a 20-minute drive. So you have to wait 20 minutes after Shabbos. The problem is, by the time Shabbos goes out, the store is closed. So really, they wouldn't be able to pick it up until Sunday morning and then drive it for 20 minutes. So do you have to wait for the store to actually be open or just the time it takes? So Kehilchatah usually means how long would it take you, for instance, if someone cooks something for you? So it says on Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat it until as long as it would take you to cook. So if it's a 2-hour roast, you have to wait 2 hours. If it's a 20-minute roast, you have to wait 20 minutes. But here, if you're picking up something, the question is, the Kehilchatah would mean just the technical, how long it would take to get there, or actually, if I wanted to pick it up on Motzei Shabbos, I can't. Why? Because the store is closed. So I have to wait till Sunday morning, and then I have to wait till the time it would take to drive it home. And let's see, okay, he says it already. How long it takes to bring it. It doesn't say, I'm not sure if we're as strict when it comes to like if a store being open or not. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to eat it because they brought it specifically for you, but it's not muktzah, and you carry it in wherever you're allowed to carry. But eating it, you have to wait until it would take the time for you personally to get it there. If you don't know where it came from, and you're doubtful, maybe it came from outside the tchum, also it's forbidden. And unless you have a good reason to believe that it came from within the permitted space, and the Gentile didn't bring it from outside the permitted space, even though they brought it to your house specifically for you. Okay, we have a whole load of footnotes. Let's go through them. Again, any questions that anyone has, please cut in. 41. There's no reason to believe that it was picked on Shabbos. Why? For then you may not handle or eat it because of muktzah, so says the Vilna Gaon. 42. If a non-Jew cooked for himself on Shabbos, we're not going into the laws of cooking for a Jew, a Gentile cooking for a Jew in general, but if a non-Jew cooked for himself on Shabbos, you may rely on poskim who permit it, but only if you cannot borrow food from someone else. So the Shulchan Aruch says, let's say you're hungry, and a Gentile cooks for himself, and it says, "Can I have a little bit of your whatever it is that he's cooking?" So you're allowed to. It's permitted, even though they cooked for you, they did a malacha, but it's not like muksa, and therefore, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's allowed in the case where you have no other options. 43. 44 is okay. These are references. 45 is a reference. 46 is talking about, what are we talking about? The laws of you have to wait until you could have done it. So if you know for sure the Gentile brought it out of the tchum for you, even if he didn't pick it, but drove to the farmer's market, you know for sure he drove to the farmer's market, you know for sure he brought it just for you, he doesn't like the fruits, it's just he did you a favor. You have to wait until you could have done it yourself. What is the law? After Shabbos, thus, you do not derive benefit from his bringing it to you on Shabbos. Okay. So that point is that you can't benefit from the fact that he did something for you on Shabbos. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch rules, like the Shulchan Aruch in 325.8, but the Ramah, again, it was more lenient, says that the time of Kehilchatah starts Sunday morning, not on Motzei Shabbos, because it is not normally done at night. Okay, that's my question. So the Ramah and the Taz, who explains the Ramah, says that not only do you have to wait how long it would take you to drive from the farmer's market on Shabbos, and you have to wait that 20, 30 minutes or hour, whatever it is, but you have to actually wait from that time Sunday. Why? Because Motzei Shabbos, nothing's open, unless it's coming from a 24/7 shop. So Ramah says that the entire, again, that the time of Kehilchatah starts on Sunday morning, not on Motzei Shabbos, and the reason the Taz says it is because it's not normally done at night. That not normally done at night, Misrabi is left open for interpretation, meaning, what does it mean not normally done at night? Is it because most people won't bring things from the farmer's market at night, but if they really wanted to, they can because they have an option? Or is it not normally done at night because you don't really have the option to do it at night because the store is closed? Which means to say, if something's coming from a 24/7 shop, someone brings you something from 7-Eleven, then maybe that's not considered something that's not usually done at night, even though if it's not usually done at night. The Mishnah Brura is Mekel, is lenient. but says that if a deraisa, like picking the fruit, is involved along with the prohibition of tchum, you should be machmer unless you need it for a mitzvah. It means the Mishnah Berurah makes a differentiates. It's like this. Let's say you know for sure the person picked the fruit. So then it's then there's a problem of the of something that was done a violation of Shabbos. The person picked the fruit for you. That's a violation of the Shabbos. It means it's not a violation for the Gentile, but he's doing something you couldn't do on Shabbos. So then the Mishnah Berurah says no. People don't pick apples by night, so you have to wait till you pick it in the morning plus Sunday morning plus the time it takes, unless you need it for I don't know what a mitzvah would be if a malava malka would be considered a mitzvah or I'm sure people would be lenient on that, or if they have a bris at night or what have you. Okay, 47. Mishnah Berurah, what are we talking about? And when there is a doubt, so you also have, it's forbidden. The Mishnah Berurah 325:48 says that in a case of a suffix, a doubt, you may use it immediately after Shabbos, even if it were brought on Shabbos, if it was brought on Shabbos. Some posts can permit it immediately after. Sorry, let's see this again. The Mishnah Berurah says, in a case of a suffix, you may use it immediately after Shabbos. For even if it was brought on Shabbos, some posts can permit it immediately after Shabbos. So if there's a doubt, so because there's someone to rely on, because some people say you could, if you, that you even if it's not a doubt, you could use it right after Shabbos. You don't have to wait until yourself could bring it. So if it's a doubt, then you could be makel. Yes, Rebecca.
Hi, maybe I'm missing something here, but I just don't understand. Like, if the guy already did something like that, how does waiting make it any better? How does that change anything? Because they already did it.
I hear what you're saying. But the point is, what are we trying to prevent? We're trying to prevent ramos, trickery, where a person's basically going to say, okay, all right, fine, he did it for himself, he already did it. There has to be no benefit. V'chtei sheyasa takes out the benefit. Means if the Gentile brings it for you, and the fact that it's not done on Shabbos, right? What's the Mishnah? What's the Ramah saying according to Taz? That you can't benefit from the fact that someone did something for you on Shabbos and because it was done specifically for you. So if you're not going to wait, you're saying, oh, the Gentile already did it, but so what? Then you're benefiting from the fact that he already did it. And because of that, they say, sorry, you
But
cannot,
how does waiting
because
change that?
you didn't benefit, because you could have done it anyways. Means you're not benefiting anything, because if you're waiting, the benefit over here we're talking about is time. We're not talking about benefit in a person. It means you could say, yeah, but even if I wait till Sunday morning, I'm still happy because I don't have to do it myself. That far we're not going to go. But you can't benefit time because the Gentile did it for you. That's the point. So you don't gain any time because if you, for instance, let's say you cooked something. Let's say you're hungry. So if you want to eat, and the Gentile cooked for you. So if I have to wait, let's say you made noodles, and noodles takes 30 minutes to make, let's say, right? So if I have to, if I want noodles, and I have to wait anyways 30 minutes after Shabbos to eat the noodles, so I didn't gain anything. I might as well make the noodles myself after Shabbos leaves, right? So the idea of Chetei Sheyasa means that the time that the Gentiles saved you, you lose anyway. So therefore, you don't gain any time. So therefore, there's no real gaining in the fact that the person did something for you.
Um, Sorry, I might have missed something, but let's say, is this a case where the guy was making noodles for himself as well?
No, the guy is making notes for you.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. So he's not getting any benefit from it himself.
Yes, yes. So the guy is making notes for you. And
Okay.
so Torah says, no, you can't benefit from that. So therefore, you have to wait. Chetei Sheyasa, then what's the point? I could have done it myself anyways. But I don't
Got
know
it.
if we go as far to say, let's say the fruit is not just time, it's also effort. If someone brings you on Shabbos, if the Gentile goes and picks apples, let's say according to the Mishnah Berurah, picks apples from the orchards, brings it to you, and even if you have to wait Sunday morning, and even if you have to wait to drive, you're still happy. Why? Because you don't want to drive 40 minutes and go pick apples. But I don't know if it goes that far to say that, because that's the difference in effort versus time. But time, 100, is the focus is on the time. And therefore, the Ramah says, it's mashma according to, it seems from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, that all we care about is the drive, not the ability, not the access. Meaning to say, if the store is closed on Saturday night, so even if I wait the 40-minute drive, I still gain because I would have to wait the Sunday morning. But the Ramah and the Taz say you do have to wait that time. It seems like the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says you do not have to wait that time. Okay.
Wait,
18.
Rabbi, just a
Good.
question. So like I like I had to go to the ER and they said I had an infection and I had to start antibiotics like the next day, which was Shabbos. So like if my brother's housekeeper went to the pharmacy to get the prescription because the doctor said I had to start right away. So
Yeah.
that's not the same kind of thing because it's a medical thing. It's like
Yeah, that's something else. But if let's say someone went to the pharmacy to pick up vitamins or something, and that's something that you're not allowed to take on Shabbos,
so then you'd have to wait.
and then you have to wait. According to the Rama, you would have to wait until the pharmacy opens, which means he says Sunday. I don't know if that would mean, what about U.S. or foreign places that things are closed on Sunday. So I don't know how far we take the Deishiyasa, even according to the Rama that says you have to wait on Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
We're not trying to be too machmir. The idea is what the Torah is trying to do in this law is, and the halacha is trying to do, is that you're not going to benefit time-wise, at least. That
Hmm.
someone did something for you specifically for you. All right. We have one final law, which is actually interesting law, which is in this paragraph, and then we'll finish. And next week we'll start the laws of Matzah Shabbos. Kaimalon, the rule is as follows. What's accepted is as follows. There's no limitations of how far you could walk if you are above 10 tvachim, which is, let's say, about 30 inches. What's this? I mean, when is a person above 30 inches? Because if you're on a grounded space, 4 by 4, that's the ground. Let's say you're on a boat that you come Erev Shabbos before Shabbos comes in, but you're on the boat. You go into a boat Erev Shabbos before Shabbos comes in. If I'm not mistaken, there are some people, I don't know, I'm not getting into the laws of this right now, but some people who, there's the kosher tours, let's say in Seattle, where I come from, is very popular in the summer. In these months now, people take cruises to Alaska, the Seattle, Alaska cruise, kosher cruise. Not all the cruises are kosher. Most of the cruises, I believe, leave on Shabbos, the non-kosher ones. The kosher ones leave on Shabbos, on Sunday. I think so. I think if I remember correctly. But I think something to the effect that the ones that go on Shabbos, they get on the boat before Shabbos, and they wait on the boat, and then it takes off on Shabbos. What's the law? I mean, now the boat is driving in the middle of the sea, going up to Alaska for the next 24 hours of Shabbos. It says like this: Misha ba b'terchas b'erev Shabbos, according to Shabbos. You enter the boat before Shabbos. Now the boat starts to travel on Shabbos. If the boat's going way past 2,000 amos, right? 2,000 amos is a kilometer. That's nothing, and there's no one living there, so you're traveling. So you're traveling way past the tchum. Now, so obviously you don't have to jump off the boat because you did the lina on the boat. So the question is, so on the boat itself, you could walk around the boat because the boat is like your 4 amos. That's not a problem. And it's the fact that it's traveling thousands of miles, hundreds of miles is not the problem. The problem is, let's say on Shabbos itself, it reaches the next port and you want to get off the boat on Shabbos. But you are way past 2,000 amos. Hold on, Rebecca, from where you started Shabbos, because you were in Seattle and now it's in Anchorage. So he says, hold on. When you come to the port on Shabbos, but you want to go out, you still have 2,000 amos to walk from the boat. You can't walk, even if you're in your city, you have the same rule that you don't have the whole city because you didn't sleep in that city for Shabbos. You didn't have Lina on Shabbos. So you didn't acquire the space to make the city your Dal Damas. But you have a kilometer to walk on the boat on Shabbos. It's this scenario probably happens all the time when people take the cruises on Shabbos. We're assuming that the boat was always above 10 amos, 10 tvachim, 10 inches from the bottom of the boat, from the bow of the boat until the ground, right? People not going so close to I guess something would be different maybe if it was a river boat. Therefore, the shvisa only starts from when it gets closer to the port. And when the time comes to the new port, that's where it starts, and starts 2,000 ams. Yes, Rebecca.
So I actually did that. I did the cruise from Seattle to
Mhm.
Alaska,
And
and
you
I
got on
was
the boat
in,
before Shabbos?
yeah. And I was in that situation, and I was told that, of course, like as long as the boat is traveling, is like in transit over Shabbos, of course you could stay on it. But I was told that you cannot get off the ship during Shabbos. You have to wait till Shabbos is over. And also, like a part of that is that you wear like a card that's like your pass for everything on the ship, and it's electronic. And when you get on and off the ship, they use like a scanner and they like zap it. So I was
Hmm.
told that that card thing is muksa and
Okay,
that
that's
you can't have
that,
them
that could
like
be something else, but
scan it.
that could be something else. But the laws of Tchum, and again, and this is the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I'm not getting. I'm sure whoever told you is talking from a place of knowledge. Will see the footnotes. But it says over here clearly is that if you get on the Shabbos, the boat before Shabbos, and it goes to the port past 2,000 amos after Shabbos, you have 2,000 amos from the boat. Now, could be there was other reasons you couldn't get off the boat. I'm telling you what it says over here. Maybe it was an Alaska boat, so it's a sea boat.
Yeah, it was a huge cruise to Alaska. Maybe it deals with like carrying or like
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying,
I
but
don't know.
I'm saying as far as Tchum goes, it says you could get off the boat on Shabbos. You have 2,000 amos. That's what it says here. Let's go
Okay.
further. He said like this. Aval, im metoich Shabbos yotze me'asfina v'chaze v'nichnas l'tzeiche. Let's say on Shabbos you go off, you go off. Oh, this is why they didn't let you go because of the second part. Avlim metoich Shabbos yotze me'asfina. You left the boat. V'chaze v'nichnas l'tzeiche. You go back on the boat, which is what you would want to do. You're not staying on the ground. Because now on Shabbos it was there in the dry space. It was tied up to the dock. Then you have a problem if the boat moves again. Once you go on the ground on Shabbos, let's say you stop off an anchor, I don't know, whatever, this catch again, and you get back on the boat, then that's the problem. So that's why they didn't want you to leave the boat, because if you're getting off the boat, it's gonna be a problem to get back on the boat. If you're getting off the boat and stay off the boat, it's something else. But if you get off the boat and you want to come back on the boat, that's a problem. And then you have a problem, and then you can't move past 4 feet where you're standing. You don't have the whole boat. Like a person went out of the tchum. So sorry. Let's say you were on some sort of river boat. Even a river boat is, I'm quite certain, above 10 to 30 inches. But it's dangerous to be that close to the ground. But let's say, for whatever reason, you're sure you're on a flat boat, and at some point you came within 10 tfachim, that becomes a problem. Kana sham shvis, and then that's your Shabbos, and then you have a problem if you continue moving. If you're in doubt, then you could be lenient. Rebecca, you have another question? Oh, okay. Let's see the footnotes. So he says like this, we have accepted the rule that the prohibition of tchum does not apply for more than 10 tfachim. This is an undecided question. That's why he says it's been accepted. In Masechtas Eiruvei 43, the Shulchan Aruch 404.1 says, where the tchumim are the rabbanon, we are meka. Since the tchumim, the limitations, is rabbinic, it's not so quick. It's not so simple if it's rabbinic, because the question is the Erev Tchumim, or the Tchumim itself. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch holds that Tchumim are always the Rabbanon. He always is Mekel. Therefore, he says that because it's a doubt on the law, so we go Safik the Rabbanon L'Chumim, we're Mekel. Okay, 49, 50. So he says, what are we talking about in 50? Hold on. Okay, we're talking about over here. You may walk, which is the halacha regarding someone who goes beyond the tchum. Hold on, we're talking about over here. Then you have the ship, only 4 amas. Okay, if you go off the boat and you want to come back on. It says which states, because if you leave the tchum, it states that if he does so on purpose, he has only 4 amas, even if he is in a place surrounded by walls, even if it's a private domain. So therefore, even if you go back on the boat and it's a private domain, you can't move. That's why you can't get off the boat. If he was forced to go out, or he went out accidentally and is in a place enclosed by walls, he may move about the whole enclosed area, but if it was done not by choice but by force, is something else. Or accidentally. Okay. 51. From the bottom of the ship to the ground. So it's not just from where you're standing on the boat, but the bottom of the boat. So therefore, it's possible sometimes to get close to 10 tfachim. Again, even on a river, I find that rare. All right, number 52. The Ramban and Rashba say when the boat is moving, you do not acquire shvisa. So as long as it's moving, it's not a problem. But once it's pulls up to the port. So it seems from this law is if it pulls up to the port and you get off, that's the problem. But if you stay on the boat, you don't have an issue. The Ramah 404, because it's a suffix, the Rabbanon, and because you don't know if you're under 10 tvachim or not, and you may be bakel, so then you could be lenient. All right. Any other questions? This finishes all the complicated laws of Tchumim that we've been learning over the past few weeks. Again, we have one more chapter which deals with the laws of Saturday night, Matzah Shabbos, Be'ez Hashem, over the next week or two, and then we'll have to see how we're going to go forward. Maybe we'll learn the laws of Yom Tov, or maybe we'll figure something else out. Any questions before we complete? Ready?
No, thank you.
Welcome,
you,
everyone.
Rabbi.
Good night.
Thank you,
Take care.
Rabbi.
Take care.